month, NASM is giving you free courses. That's right, free courses each month just for being part of the NASM family. Learn about everything ranging from nutrition to strength, weight loss to stress relief, and everything in between. Click the link in the bio for information and to claim your free course before they're gone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Random Fit. My name is Wendy Batts, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Mr. Ken Miller. So, Ken, how are you doing today?
I am awesome. Thank you, Wendy. How are you?
Just living a dream. No place I'd rather be. Well, we're super excited today. We have a special guest. Her name is Erica Lugo, and she is going to be joining us to tell us all about the amazing stuff that she has gone through, what she's done, and how she's really impacted the fitness industry. So I would like to formally introduce Miss Erica, and I'll let Erica introduce herself. I think she could do herself justice more than I can. So Erica, why don't you tell everyone who you are and why you're here?
I think you did a really good job introducing me. Sometimes I don't like saying, hi, I'm Erica Lugo, and I do this and this and this. No, my recent title that people know me by is Erica Lugo, Biggest Loser Trainer. But I've done so many different things, with the Rachel Ray Show, the Today Show, Women's Health Magazine. I've definitely experienced a lot in the fitness world the last few years.
Well, we are excited to have you. And, I was kind of reading up on you a little bit more, and I know that you have an amazing kind of back history of what even got you into the fitness industry. And of course you are NASM certified, which makes me super, super excited. But why don't you kind of tell us, a little bit of kind of what got you where you are today? So kind of give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, man, that's such a broad question. I can go on forever about that. So my son, I can't believe, is going to be turning 11 in just a few weeks. And I decided to start losing weight when he was about 3 because I just couldn't keep up with him. I was having a hard time getting up off the floor, and it was or getting up off the couch to play with him on the floor. And I remember it was my light bulb moment. Oh, everyone always asks, what was that moment for you? And for me, it was when my 3-year-old looked up at me from the floor and asked, Mom, will you play with me? And I got goosebumps. I wish you can close up. I just got goosebumps because I remember looking at my son and telling him no, because I'd much rather sit on the couch and eat Cheez-Its or Goldfish. And something in me was just, whoa, I wanted him so badly. I wanted to be a mother so badly. And I didn't even have the energy to get up off the couch to play with him because I thought, well, then I'm going to have to clean up the toys and pretend I have energy to play with them. And I'm like, I just worked all day. I deserve to sit on the couch. So I had struggled with my weight my whole entire life. I've always been a bigger built person. I mean, first off, I'm 5'11", so I'm just built bigger anyways. But, by that point, after that moment with my son, something in me said, get on the scale and see what it says. I don't know why I did that, but I'm glad I did. And I got on the scale and it said 322 pounds. And my heart just went whoosh. It fell out of my stomach. And I just thought, there's no way that I'm in my 20s and 322 pounds. So I honestly just started with the basics. I've tried dieting all my life. I come from a family where we tried dieting all our life. I come from the generation where our parents took diet pills to lose the weight, so my vivid memories of losing weight was quick fixes, find something that's just going to work. But I knew the basic of eating less and moving more was going to work. So I just started there. And honestly, I'm thankful that I started then with just the basics, because I think now, especially with social media, we're so saturated with all these different ideas and versions of what health is that I think I'd be more confused now if I was starting now versus when I did back then.
Now, Erica, thanks for sharing that, by the way, because I've got 2 kids of my own, and my daughter is going to be 10 this year. And exactly what you said, it's just about trying to keep up with her and my son who's playing baseball. Now, with you and your lifestyle, is it a matter of you keeping up with your son now, or is it about your son keeping up with you? Because I've seen your workouts, and your workouts are no joke either.
So it's kind of funny. All of our kids, well, now I'm remarried, so I don't just have one. I have two stepkids too, and all three kids play sports. But it's so funny because I'm such an active person that it's our rule in our house that you have to move for a minimum of 30 minutes a day if you're not playing sports or if you're not at practice. And I'm telling you, no matter like as much as they see me and my husband move, sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get them on that 30 minutes. So I would say I'm still ahead of the game as of now, but they're about ready to peak here soon with their athleticism. So I'm waiting for it. So that's why I'm keeping up on mine.
Well, I have a question for you, based on what you said, and, obviously it was the realization when you got on the scale, and then you were really kind of thinking more about nutrition and your diet. And, from there, what is the hardest thing, or what was the hardest thing? Like when you had those days, which everybody has those days. I have those days for sure, probably more often than I want to admit, but you just don't want to do anything. I mean, I know you have your son. Was he your lead motivation, or was it more just because you wanted just a whole different lifestyle? Like what was your motivation and what kept you going to get you to where you are?
Yeah, totally. And that's a great question because so many people ask, what was it? What keeps you going? And I learned at first, like, yes, motivation's a really great thing, keeping up with my son. And then you start feeling the results and you just start feeling better and you're like experiencing life more. But motivation to me, the more I've gotten into this journey, is just kind of like a load of unicorn poop. Like it's nice to think about, I guess. Like it's nice to think that it's there and to count on. And it's almost like, people are always like, what keeps you motivated? Like I have some magical power that I'm just keeping in my back pocket, that I'm some lucky person who just found it in the magical woods of motivation. But like that's furthest from the truth. What keeps me going is habits. And I think people need to start realizing that a little bit sooner than later. Like, yeah, motivation's great. It's awesome fluff. But what kept me going is like, okay, when I first started, my habit was waking up before my son went to daycare, 4 times a week and walking for 30 minutes. And that then transpired to, okay, well, now I've gotten that habit down. Well, what other habit can I build in? Let me drink a gallon of water every day for 4 or 5 months. Okay, that habit's built in. So all this stuff is second nature to me, that it doesn't matter if I'm motivated or not, because it's just so habitual that I just do it.
Now, that's awesome, because, habits are what, just consistent habits are what makes a lifestyle change. So with that, and considering the growth of your family and, and we'll talk about you and the business side of Erica in a little bit, but what habits do you collectively do as a family unit? So in your household, you mentioned your exercise habits, your water drinking, your nutrition, but what do you do as a collective to ensure that the household, does what they're supposed to do to maintain health and fitness? Because, there's just, I want to know for me personally, because it's a battle every day.
Yeah.
They don't want to eat this, but they will have this. But then, I'm not a short order cook, so I'm not going to cook 3 different things. So
You're
what
not?
do you do? What? Yeah, I don't think you want to eat my short order cooking. But so what do you do as a, you mentioned the 30 minutes of movement when they're not playing sports. So what is it that's a part of your weekly habit that you do as a group?
Well, definitely the 30 minutes of movement, which is not always easy. So, my husband does boxing classes. I run classes at my own studio. And sometimes we'll say, hey, you're either going to boxing, you're either coming with Erica to the studio and working out with her group, or you're going to be on the treadmill or the bike for 45 minutes or a class for 30. Like pick and choose what you're going to do. So that's something that we've just done so often. Like it's just, they'll fight us and they're like, oh, like I really don't want to do any of it. And we're like, well, you're just going to have to do it. Another thing is we have open conversations when it comes to food and wellness. I think because I grew up in an environment where food was an attachment, like it was an emotional response. My mom, Little Debbie's and cakes and ice cream was the way she showed love, because her mom showed her love the same way. So instead of doing that here, we do more family unit stuff, but also we're pretty open with food. I had the conversation with my husband actually literally just yesterday, and I said, it's so interesting because I got my Instacart order in for my groceries. We got them delivered, and they have their, their cookies, their Nutter Butters, or their little muffins or whatever. That's plenty in the house, but they never overeat or snack too much because we've never made it a bad food. We've never talked about those foods as in they are a special treat. They're supposed to be limited. We've just said this is food. And we've never made a big fuss about it. As when where I grew up, it was like, hey guys, this box of Little Debbie's is special. It's to treat you. It's to make you feel good. It's because you did good. And then we also keep all the other good stuff in the house. When we cook dinner, we actually cook dinner as a family. And my husband has a whole binder of recipes, and we actually let the kids pick out which recipes they want. So, it's like bison burgers is one of our favorite, and we'll do, peppers chopped up and a side salad, or we'll do gluten-free, spaghetti with lean ground turkey meatballs and keto marinara sauce. Like, they love picking out the ingredients for their healthy options too, but we just make them part of like the family unit. And when we do our grocery list, it's on the fridge. And we have it written out, bananas, fruit, what fruit do you want? What veggies do you want? And then what snacky things do you want? So we just make it a priority that they know that there's no such thing as good food or bad food. It's just food, and we eat it all in moderation.
Yes. Those of you guys that are just joining us, again, welcome to Random Fit. I'm Wendy Batts, and I'm here with my co-host, Ken Miller. And of course, we have a special guest, Erica Lugo, and she's telling us some amazing tips and a little bit about herself. But, Erica, I find it fascinating that you say that, because again, when I was growing up, same thing with my family. It was always about, here are our special treats, or if we did well, we got to go and pick out something special. But, it's another kind of sad thing. And unfortunately, especially with our portion sizes, I've noticed that my mother was like, you're not getting away from, moving away from the table until you clear your plate. It was always clean your plate or you can never get out. And so it's kind of, it's unfortunate because, I definitely don't want to bring that to, I have a 5-year-old son. And so we're just like, eat us until you're full. However, the protein part has to be, you have to consume that over like a French fry or something like that. So we do give them like, you must eat this over this. So I find it fascinating because it is so true. And luckily, I think, society is starting to get the hang of, what it's really not about cleaning your plate. It's making good choices, looking at your portion sizes. And I think that's great. But one thing I wanted to ask you, I mean, not to be doom and gloom here, but I know that you're a cancer survivor. And I think the story of how you found out was, I mean, it literally took me back, because it's not like you had these symptoms and you were sick and you were trying to figure it out. So do you want to share with everyone your story there?
Yeah. So I have gone through multiple medical testing just because my family has thyroid issues. My mom's hypothyroidism, my uncle's hypothyroidism, but I was young when I found it. I like to still think I'm young, right? But when I found out, I was younger, and, I would do my yearly blood draws with my doctor, my checkups. Since that family history, they would always check my thyroid levels. I always checked out fine, normal. I had no symptoms. I had no feelings, nothing that I can remember related to my thyroid. I actually blacked out while I was driving. I remember going to my studio because I had a client at like 6:30 in the morning, and I pulled off the exit of the highway, and I just remember going like, man, I feel really sweaty and clammy. Like maybe I ate something last night. I don't know. And then I started shaking, and I said, okay, I just got to make it to that gym over there. There was a gym across the street, across the highway. And I said, I just got to make it there, park my car, and maybe like collect myself, just make it there. So I turned left at the light, and then all of a sudden my hearing went away. It was like a really loud ringing. My hearing went away. And then all of a sudden my vision just like went tunnel vision to like nothing but black. And I remember telling myself, oh God, this is it. Cause I felt bumps and I was completely out. And then I woke up, and my car had veered over 4 different lanes and down a ditch, up a hill, and then completely totaled a church picnic shelter. And I just remember a stranger pulling me out of my car before a big wooden beam would have crushed me, and I probably would not have survived. Even the firefighters say there's no way you should have survived what you did if it wasn't for that stranger pulling me out just in time. And he said he saw me starting to veer. He was a dentist going on the way to work down the street and saw me starting to veer and made sure that I was going to be okay. So in that accident, they obviously took me to the hospital to check for broken bones and head and neck injuries. And in my MRI scan for my head and neck injuries, they found a small mass on the right side of my neck. And the doctor said, did you know you have this? And I said, no. And he goes, well, if you feel pretty deep, you can do it. And looking back, if I would have checked my neck or my face, I would have felt it. But as women, we're never taught to do that. And I think we should be. We're taught to check our breast for breast cancer, but thyroid cancer is one of the fastest growing cancers among women in the United States. I think we need to start saying, check your neck. So Then I get scheduled for a biopsy. My endocrinologist at the time said, "Oh, you're young, you're super healthy. Like 99% of the time it's benign." So the day after Thanksgiving 2018, I actually had a biopsy appointment. I almost forgot about it because I wasn't worried about it at all. And I go to the biopsy appointment, and right then and there, he does a needle biopsy. And at the time, I just signed a lease for a brand new retail space that I saved for years for a new fitness studio. I was writing a $20,000 check to renovate it. I'm still a single mom. I just moved into a brand new condo on my own and paid for it. And we're talking about all the exciting things going on in life. The holidays are coming up. And he's like, "Oh, I'll be right back." And I said, "Oh my gosh, you do it here?" And he was like, "Yeah." Again, I didn't think anything of it. I get on Instagram, I do my scroll, and he comes back 5 minutes later and his face is completely different. And he hands me this small piece of paper and he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, but you have papillary thyroid cancer." And he goes, "It's already spreading." And he says, "Follow up with your doctor." And that's all he said. And I still actually have that little piece of paper. I don't know why the hell I hold on to it, but yeah, I found out the day after Thanksgiving. And then I had a full thyroidectomy, so you can still see my scar right there, not too long ago, January of 2019. And then I had full radiation. I was actually radioactive. I couldn't have my kid with me. I couldn't have my pets. I had to sleep on, cheap sheets from Walmart, and I had to use the same utensils, and I had to flush the toilet 3 times. Like, I was legit radioactive for 10 days in March of 2019. So really, it hasn't been that long ago that my body's been through thyroid cancer.
It's amazing. Well, I'm glad. I mean, not that I'm glad that you had the wreck, but in all reality, there was
a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, wow. Yeah. And then obviously you had to tell your son. I know that must have been heartbreaking, but it sounds like he took it very well.
I actually told Instagram before I ever told my son. Like, I told the world before I told my son, because as a single mom, and he was, he's going to be 11. This was only 2 years ago. So 9-ish, right? And he's at that age where he's still young, but kind of growing up a little bit. And, at that age, they don't understand the gravity so much. They hear cancer and they automatically think it's going to be a bad thing. So I had to sit him down and I said, "Listen, Daddy's going to be around," because we were divorced. So I said, "Daddy's going to be around a little bit more helping you out. Abuela, my mother, is going to be helping a lot." And he said, "Well, why?" And I said, "Well, Mommy's really sick right now, and I'm going to have to go through a couple things to get better." And he said, "Well, why are you sick?" And I said, "Well, I have cancer." Oh, I can almost cry thinking about that situation. But he looks at me and goes, "Are you going to die?" As a 9-year-old. And as a single mom, I didn't have that answer because I didn't know. All I knew is that I had stage 2. Technically, it would be stage 3 if I was over 35. Stage 3 to thyroid cancer because it had already spread. We didn't have as many answers as I wanted to. So I didn't have an answer for him at that time. And all you say as a maternal instinct is, "No, honey, I'm going to be fine." But deep down, I was scared as hell.
Wow.
Oh, man. Well, we're so glad you are where you are, because I mean it is one of those things. Yeah, like you said, it is a blessing that under one circumstance you figured out your situation, but and then from that point, I mean, you mentioned you were at a point where you were also opening up your own studio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
yep.
Do you still have that studio? As that's one of the things I was trying to look at.
I still have that studio. Yep. I still have that studio here in Dayton, Ohio. Yeah.
And how has that been for you? Because I myself, I own my own personal training studio here in California, but I'm always asking other studio or anybody who owns a brick and mortar training facility, how have things been for you this last year?
Yeah, it's not been easy. I've never been one to actually promote what I've done on TV or magazines or, talk shows to get business. I probably should, looking at it, but I've never been one to be like, "Hey, I've been on TV in a national show, so come train with me." I actually don't ever promote that on any of my social content pages with my studio affiliation. So, we don't have millions of clients like people assume. We have around 100, which is still really good. For us, our clientele is a little bit older. They're moms, they are wives, they are middle-aged or older, they got families to take care of. So when COVID happened, obviously no one wanted to expose themselves. So we obviously had to go right online because we did get locked down for quite some time. I know you guys in California are back and forth with that as well, but thankfully we went right online. But when we were allowed to reopen, we still allowed online streaming, but I will say our clientele dropped off because I was not going to hold them accountable for a membership if they just did not feel safe. Like that, I just didn't feel right doing that.
Right.
So, unfortunately we did have a dip in clientele. We're slowly starting to tick back up. I had to add more sessions. So we have what I call semi-private. It's kind of like a small group. We only allow 12 people in there anyways, but now I've actually cut that down even more to only 8. So everyone can be 8 feet apart, and we have bubbles and stickers where they're in their own little bubble. Everyone has their own yoga mats. Everyone has their own set of dumbbells that they can rent out or, borrow ours, but it's got to be clean before and after. So I've had to add more sessions, had to add more trainers. So obviously my revenue has taken a hit because I've had to add more to accommodate for safety protocols and procedures. And then try finding enough Lysol all the time.
Oh my goodness.
To clean
Clorox wipes, Lysol, anything. Yeah. Air filters, all of that stuff, right? So let me ask you this then. I mean, you're saying that, you have this brick and mortar, you have more trainers, and you still have, and this is the thing that's still amazing to me, is that you have such a wide social media presence. I know you've got your Facebook group, you have your live sessions there, and then you have your live Instagram. How do you balance it all? Because you're still trying to reach out, talk to people. You have guests, and I was scrolling through, and the guests that you were able to get on, and with your exposure with The Biggest Loser and your presence from the media standpoint there, how do you balance all of that from a training standpoint?
Yeah. Well, my husband always likes to say it's because you're Erica Fitlove, right? So he just says you just get it done. But I've honestly, I'm learning to balance. I'm not going to say I have it all figured out because I think it's an ever evolving thing. Between 3 kids, we've got 3 dogs. I'm newly married. We just celebrated our first wedding anniversary. We got married in COVID. I have the brick and mortar. I also have 2 supplement companies. I've got a tea company, a skincare company, an online membership, and I do Instagram lives and Facebook lives. My schedule's pretty well built out. But I will say I've learned to say no and set boundaries. So especially with being online and helping people, unfortunately, you can give people an inch and they'll take a mile. And I've learned to set those boundaries with saying no, or I wish I could help, but I can't. Here's a different resource. And also just doing it what I'm passionate about. It doesn't seem like it's work when I'm so passionate about it. So, but I'll get back to you when I figure out the balance thing.
Well, Eric, I have a question. Speaking about The Biggest Loser, I think it's amazing that you're one of the newer trainers that are going to be on the show. I know that, if you want to kind of tell us a little bit about how did you get involved? Did they contact you? Did you contact them? And had you previously watched the show and were you thinking, wow, like this trainer, like I would never be that trainer, or this is what I think should change? What were your thoughts before you became part of the show? And then now, like, what is it being on the show, obviously, that you feel is really going to help these individuals?
Yeah. So funny story with how they found me and how this all happened. So first off, when I got the first interview request, my husband, he was just my boyfriend then, he was like, oh, you got the show. Like, don't even worry about it. But they slid into my Instagram DMs, and someone from, what is the word I'm looking for? Casting producer slid into my DMs and said, hey, I think you'd be a really great fit for the show. And I remember thinking, well, if it's anything like The Biggest Loser, I don't know if I want to do it, just because it's been a show that has so many well-known people already. Like, you think of Biggest Loser, you think Bob Harper, you think Jillian Michaels. And I was like, I don't know if I could fill those shoes. And then she says, well, actually is The Biggest Loser. And I thought, damn. And I was like, I'm going to go for it anyway. So I said, I'm open to hearing, what it's going to be about, because it was off air for about 3 to 4 years and it hasn't been around. So I went through the casting process and interesting enough, I got done with radiation for thyroid cancer in February and March of 2019. And then I got contacted by The Biggest Loser in June, July of 2019. So I was just getting done and over that hump and still recovering. So I go through the interview process and it just gets further and further along. They actually fly me out to California for what's called a chemistry test just to see how I am on camera, and basically threw me to the wolves. They gave me two Biggest Loser type contestants. They let me see their background, their folder with all their information, their medical history when it comes to not medical history, but their fitness history, any injuries and things like that, and said, all right, go train them for 20 minutes while we have all these cameras around you, and every major network producer is going to be watching you in this little dinky room in the basement of a major production company. And I thought, holy crap. So I just did what I do. I just kind of brushed it off. I get a text back from the casting director that night as I'm in my car going back home, because literally they flew me in, they flew me out. And at the time, I was actually trying to study for the NASM. I'd only bought my certification bundle maybe 6 weeks before the business contacted me, because I was already certified with 2 other certifications. And the casting director said, hey, how fast can you get your NASM? And I said, how fast do you need me to get my NASM? And she's like, she said, 15 days. And I said, oh my God, okay. So I had 15 days, and I literally canceled everything in my life because I've already been certified for 2 other certifications. I've been thinking about my NASM for some time. I had, the books. I just never did anything with it. And she's like, 15 days. And I'm like, oh, sweet Lord. I just bought a house. I just, studio's up and running, just hired another trainer. I had so many moving parts. I canceled everything, and I studied 24 hours a day for 15 days. And I go to the test because it's proctored, right? And I'm like shaking in my boots the whole time, because I'm like, if I don't pass this test, I'm not going to be able to be a trainer on the show. So I'm like, that's a lot of pressure, right? Like, you made it through all of this and you got to pass this damn test. And people, it's not easy, folks. Like, it's like the top of the top, right? Like, it's the top of the top. And I take the test, and I think it took me about 35 minutes, and they give you the results then and there. And I swear to God, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And she's like, you pass. And I was just like, oh my God. So I felt like I hit like every roadblock. So I had to pass a NASM in 15 days. With my car accident, I still had some issues with my driving abilities. Like, I had some restrictions per the state and the medical team, because they're like, well, you're blacking out while driving. So I had to get that fixed by the DMV in the state of Ohio to get that cleared. I had to pass a NASM. I had all these things going on. I'm like, there is no way in heck that I'm not getting this job. So finally she's like, all right, we have a couple other candidates, but we'll call and keep you in, and we'll be in touch. So I was at the gym. It was like a Wednesday morning, doing my cardio. I see LA's calling me. So I get off the elliptical. I go to this little private room, and at this gym, they don't have the ceilings above these little individual rooms. It's like a little changing pod. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, hello? And she's like, do you want good news or bad news first? And I said, bad news. And she says, the bad news is you have to be on a plane to New Mexico tomorrow to be gone for 4 months of your life. Good news is you got the job. And I was like, are you kidding me? And the whole gym could hear me. And I'm like crying uncontrollably, because for me, ever since I got in fitness, my one thing I've always told myself to keep on pushing on was because I wanted to change the way people view fitness. I wanted to change the industry standard that you don't have to be, a double size 0 with 6-pack abs and sculpted arms to be in fitness and change people's lives. So I knew being on The Biggest Loser was going to be that platform for me. And I lost it. And that's how I got the job.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. And I've seen, some of the interactions that you've done, just little clips of it. So when you first met your team, were you nervous? Were you excited? I mean, I know that they obviously, yeah, right? So a little bit of both.
Yeah, I was definitely shaking in my boots. Again, because looking at the previous seasons, I've never really watched the seasons. I was always aware of. I knew who Bob Harper was. I knew who Julian Michaels was. Those were just pivotal pieces. They literally changed. They're going to be on history trivia games for, pop culture, because they are so well known. So when I found out that Bob was going to be the host, I was even more nervous, because, regardless if you lose 160 pounds, 20 pounds, everyone still struggles with that inner critic and, thinking that they need to be X, Y, and Z to be accepted. So for me, it was an internal struggle to say, okay, I'm going on a national platform as a weight loss trainer, and I'm a size 8, and I have curves, and I'm stocky, and I look different than the other trainers. So it was really hard for me to swallow that pill, but it also made me really excited to be on the show because I wanted to make it different. But I'll never forget when I first got to Santa Fe, like the second or third day I was there, the production said, hey, we want you guys to have private meetings with Bob and just kind of get to know him. And I thought, oh crap, like I'm so nervous. So we go into this gorgeous hotel in Santa Fe, and they open the doors like it's some Italian mob. Like I thought like this was some movie scene, literally. They open these big wooden, beautiful doors to this lightly dimmed Santa Fe like style room with like all the leather and the Aztec stuff. And there's Bob Harper sitting in this gorgeous, like hand-carved wooden chair, in all his Bob Harper glory, with his 2 dogs one on each side. He was like, hello. And I thought, oh my God, like I'm so nervous. And I told him right off the bat, I said, I really don't feel like I fit the part of a trainer. I don't know how comfortable I feel being here. And he said, well, you look like you work out to me, and I feel like you are definitely someone who should be here. So after he told me that, it got a lot easier. Now, the process definitely was hard. I mean, I was gone for 4 months, and then no one could actually know that I got the show for the first 8 weeks that I was filming, because it hadn't been publicly announced who the trainers were yet. People knew the show was coming back, but they had no idea. So I had to up and leave my life, and the only people who knew was my son and my mom and my then boyfriend and my trainers at the studio, because obviously they had to take over. So 5 people who had to keep it really hush-hush, and no one else could know what I was doing. So it was really kind of an isolating experience because, A, I'm across the country, I'm by myself, and I'm living this dream that I never thought I would. And when you're on campus, you live, eat, breathe, The Biggest Loser. You are there 15 hours a day. You've got a team who's relying on you. And not only that, in the back of my head, I'm like, this is national freaking TV. I hate losing at home, like let alone on a national platform. So it was a super humbling experience for me, because sometimes even Steve, the co-trainer, would be like, Erica, don't get so mad. I'm like, don't tell me not to get mad that we lost. So I got humbled a lot on set, but I would never take the experience back.
That's awesome. Well, for those of you guys that are joining us, we are speaking with Erica Lugo. She is a part of our wonderful Random Fit podcast today, with myself being Wendy Batts and my co-host Ken Miller. And we are super excited to hear all these fun stories. And going back to you, Erica, one more question about The Biggest Loser, and I'm sure I keep hogging all Ken's time, so sorry for butting in so much, Ken.
You got great questions.
I know, right? But when you talk about the day, being on the campus, and you're kind of walk us through, because again, we just see an hour show, and then all of a sudden we see this huge amount of weight loss. And, sometimes, when others are trying to lose weight, they're sitting at home and they're like, man, I only lost a pound this week. And these people are losing like 20 pounds or 15 pounds or 10 pounds. Right. Can you kind of walk us through like, what is the difference from what we see on TV and then what's truly happening on the back end?
Yeah, great question. I'm so passionate about the show, because being on campus, I see firsthand what good the show does, even though some people have different opinions on it. So you're right. You guys only see an hour each week, versus one episode actually takes a week to film. So we have 7 days chopped into 1 hour. What people don't realize is, I always say, we have the healthiest overweight people ever. So when the show picks, the final 24 contestants, those 24 contestants actually got flown out to Santa Fe well before I got even selected to be a trainer. And they are going through multiple and vigorous medical testing on every scale that you can imagine. So much so that it takes, over a week for them to do all the testing day by day, sleep tests, movement tests, mobility tests, health tests, blood markers, everything that you can imagine is done on campus. And also to see how they can just even acclimate, because being in Santa Fe, the elevation, it'll make you feel something fierce. So a lot of people don't realize they have so much medical background checks to even get on the show and be cleared to get on the show. So that's one thing. Behind the scenes, they have a therapist, they have a nutritionist, They've got 2 trainers, and they've got a medical doctor, and they have physical therapists 24/7 as much as they want. I would always joke that our cast members had better treatment than us as trainers, because if they wanted to go get a massage, boom, let's go get you that massage gun. Let's get you on the table. Let's get you worked out. If they needed recovery things, there was a physical therapist there with ice baths, saunas, wraps, you name it. If they had any question about what micronutrients or macronutrients were, not only what us as trainers, they had nutritionists make individual plans for them based off their BMR and based off their food preferences. They had someone shop for them. You know, their only job, and I always say, it's a weight loss competition show. So you cannot compare the Biggest Loser bubble to reality, because they are in a Biggest Loser bubble. Now, what I appreciated about the season that I was on is we have lots of aftercare. So when they leave the show, they actually have a year worth of therapy, nutritionists, and access to trainers and Planet Fitness for a year after being off the show. Whether you were off the first episode and lost 0 or 10 pounds, and to the very last contestant who won, they have a year of support, which I think is just pivotal in making sure people can stay healthy. But our days would start off anywhere between 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. And you had the camera workouts that you see on camera and on film. Those were the weekly workout, the last chance workout, and the challenges. Those were 3 things that we filmed in a week. However, behind the scenes, we and Steve would constantly make our trip to campus. And keep in mind, we had 30 plus commute every day back and forth to get to campus. So if sometimes someone on your team was like, hey, I really need that support right now, I feel like I'm going to break. Like, I can't do this. I would drive 30 plus minutes at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night to go talk to them and to help them. Like, that was our job. We would make their plans for them. Each of them had to be individually made. Then when those plans got submitted, then they got sent to the doctor and the physical therapist to make sure that it was something that person's body could handle because of the tests that they went through. So a lot of people are like, oh, I can't believe Erica had someone do a box jump. Now, keep in mind, the box was only 1 or 2 inches. And yes, she was over 300 pounds. However, all her tests that she went through, mobility-wise, stability-wise, was cleared, and she stepped it. So there was tons of things beyond what you guys just see on TV that goes into making sure that each and every one of those contestants are well taken care of.
That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that is amazing. As far as all the help that someone needs to see change, and I know again with what you do from a online coaching standpoint, you do provide a lot of that. That's a gist I get from your social media. But the one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because both Wendy and I, we do our share of talking to personal trainers, especially new personal trainers, to the field of fitness. And you made that transition years ago. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were working in human resources. You had an office, a desk job, and you made that change. And, and a lot of trainers, especially within this last year, everybody's had to make some adjustments, to say the least. But what key points and what words of advice would you have for people that have realized, okay, my passion isn't helping other people. My passion isn't helping people move better and move more. And, I need to get out of this retail job. I need to get out of this engineering job and accounting job. I need to get away from this and move into this field. What advice would you have for somebody that wants to take that leap, but they're just afraid to let go of that one wrong before they monkey bar to that next one?
Oh my gosh. And I live that. So you're right. Good research, Ken, like really good research on that HR stint. I'm pretty impressed. So I worked HR, you're right. And, and then after HR, I went to fitness, but I only went to fitness part-time for probably a couple years because I was doing marketing and I couldn't let go of that little flexible marketing job, marketing and HR. And I remember my boyfriend constantly saying, just let it go. Like, just jump and just leap. And I promise you, everything is going to be okay. And I was still so fearful because I'm like, I don't know, as a single mom, like you need that income, this is stability. I grew up in a house where it was like, you need a 9 to 5, you need your insurance, go to work, go home, whatever. Being an entrepreneur was like unheard of. But I will say the moment that I realized just to leap, as scary as that is, and to let go of the fear. Also, I'm a huge fan, and people laugh at me. People on the Biggest Loser set call me woo-woo. I actually am a huge manifestation person. I wear citrine, which is like good for opportunities and abundance. And I literally will claim and believe what I want every day. Like in my journal, even now, I say, I am X, Y, and Z. I have X, Y, and Z. So when it came to making that leap in my journal, I would do the same thing. I would say, I am a successful personal trainer every day. So whether I believed it or not, it was something that my mind constantly was being fed, that it was just easy for me to make that leap because I was like, well, I am this. I am successful. Like, come on. Like, there's no way to not be. And same thing with The Biggest Loser. I wrote it every single day the moment I got that interview. I am the next Biggest Loser trainer. I had it on my phone, on my screensaver. I said it every day. I never once doubted it. Boom. And I feel like you just got to own it and make that leap because honestly, the most success you're going to have is when you make that leap. And it's supposed to be scary and it's supposed to feel like icky and weird and all that stuff, right? That's what makes it so great.
Now, when you became a trainer, and you were doing part-time, were you, did you go work for someone else? Did you say, okay, I'm going to do a big box, a boutique, or I'm just going to have my own clients and meet them somewhere in a park?
Yeah, great question. So I actually, there was a non-franchise gym here local in Centerville, Ohio, and another fitness trainer had a rented out space within the gym. And when I told her I got certified, she said, oh, well, if you want to get started, like you can rent our space and we can kind of like intermingle and like use the space, together. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And a few months went by and I was like, no, this isn't going to work because I just, I didn't agree with, the gym's vision of what fitness is. I didn't agree with the girl who had her boutique studio. Like, her times was always overlapping mine. And I felt like they kind of looked at me like, oh, she's a newbie. And they kind of treated me that way too. Like, oh, she's a newbie. Maybe she'll have clients, but hers aren't what ours are worth. And that's what I felt. And that's one of the main reasons that I felt so passionate about changing the fitness industry, because that niche that they were in was very different than what I was, right? And I felt like, well, I need a space where people can feel comfortable coming from a background like me. People who aren't naturally fit or who aren't naturally thin or who may not be the trendy fitness clothes people and going in with their Lulu and this and all of that. And just, that's not what I came from. Not to say that's not okay or bad, because it's not, but that wasn't just me. So I actually found an old garage studio, because keep in mind, I was still a single mom at this time, and making that transition. I found this old garage, gross, shared the co-garage with auto detailers. There was no parking lot. There was no windows. The only in or out was the garage door up and down and a side door. So that was the only light we could ever get in. There was no heat. There was no air conditioning. It smelled like oil and car paint 24/7. The bathroom, I would say you would probably come back murdered. No joke, because it was that scary. And I bought all my equipment secondhand. I bought all of it on Facebook. I found it on Craigslist. I did what I could. I had, literally probably $500 in my bank account. And I did that on, painting the garage floor just to make it a little bit, livable. And I did that for 2.5 years. My seats were, where people could sit down when they're coming in, were literally wood boxes that I had someone nail together for me and paint pink to make it look livable. I mean, everything was literally secondhand or just made from what I could. And we did that for about 2 years, and I saved all my pennies from that. And I put it into my retail space that I have now.
Wow, that's amazing. So you need pink boxes. That's what you need.
I need paint and oil in the air.
I'm telling you, yeah, they were these big wooden boxes that I painted bright pink, and then we found what are the rubber baseboards, and I glued rubber baseboards to the bottom of the pink boxes to make them look a little bit better. Like I did the best I could, but I think it says something that a lot of my clients. Not a lot, all of my clients stayed with me in that space. I had clients who were, top level, income earners and living $1 million lifestyles and going to that garage. And I think that says a lot with what I offered and the connection I could have with people and how I treated fitness and how I made it very, it's not a one size fits all. Everyone is welcome in fitness. Just because you're not a certain size and a certain look doesn't mean you're anything less than someone who is.
That's awesome. Well, Erica, I know I could keep you here all day, but I have one final question, and then I know Ken will probably close this out. But obviously NASM is super true to my heart as well as Ken's, and then hopefully yours as well. But with everyone listening, and I mean, obviously we have people that are trainers. We also have people that are consumers, or people that just like to listen to us chat, which is what we're kind of hoping for as well. But if you had to give the 3 key takeaways in your life, like the biggest things that you've learned and the things that you could say on a success, like what are you most, I know what you're thankful for, because I mean, obviously you have a lot, but what could you, like words of advice, as Ken kind of said earlier, but if you had to say, here are 3 key takeaways for people that don't know if they want to train or want to lose weight, want to make changes, it's more of like living a lifestyle. What would you say to everyone?
My gosh, that's such a broad question. How can you put that on me at the very end?
I know. Well, you know what? I figured I'd start there just in case, but
the biggest thing, and I have so many people ask me that all the time. And the one thing that I tell people is to drain out the noise, because there's so much, like I said earlier, on social media, you can scroll your feed and you're going to see 10 different diets. You're going to see 10 different influencers offering different workouts. You're going to see so many different low carb, fat free, sugar free things. And I just say, drain out the noise and do what's best for you. And that may be starting with something that's just, lessening your portion sizes. That may be just as simple as walking outside versus doing those crazy, workouts that we see on social media. And listen to yourself, because what happens is when we just get so inundated with everyone else's opinions and someone else's workouts or food advice, that we kind of like lose sight of ourselves and we start molding into other people. And I remember when I first started in fitness, and even now I'm trying to teach people to unlearn everything that we've been taught, because I fell into that trap too. The more is better, grind harder, work until you're puking, cut your calories until you just can't cut anymore. Like that's kind of what we've been fed. And I listened to so many people's opinions based off social media that I kind of followed that for a little while. And then when I allowed that noise to go away and I shut it out and I listened to my own heart and my own head, that's when my journey started taking the turn for the better, because I was doing what was best for me.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Erica. And like what Wendy said, I've got about 5 other questions that I could easily ask you right now. But I mean, at some point in the future, hopefully, we'll be able to, pick your mind and brain a little bit more, especially with what you mentioned with your businesses. You have a tea company, supplements, you're involved in nutrition, exercise, you got multiple platforms, and definitely you've got a follower in me since finding out that, we've got you, on this episode of the Random Fit. And, I started following you not just from a research standpoint, but what really captivated me was just your passion and your energy and your enthusiasm for not just, the things that you're doing and how you're helping people, but it's just, your passion for life and how you get people not just to get to where they want to be, but to keep them there is the energy I'm getting. So, you definitely have a follower in me, not just because of the show, but not just up till the show, but definitely moving forward. And we will have in the show notes your information on, people want to follow you and keep in touch with you regarding your social media and your different platforms. So thank you again on behalf of Wendy and myself. Thank you so much for spending your time here again with everything that you've got going on. I know there's other ways that you could have filled in this hour, but for those of you guys listening to the Random Fit, we've had the pleasure of having Miss Erica Lugo here, sharing her experiences and what makes her businesses basically run with all the background. Man, I'm definitely going to watch this over again. But subscribe, follow, share. You know the drill. Follow, share, download, and if you like what you have to hear, especially with this awesome episode here. Please stay tuned for more episodes from Random Fit. So thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
And be well.
Thanks, guys.